Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa A.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and more. Because I'm on a happy 88 mission, 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. I'm Dr. Marissa, your host, your producer, your bringer of all things good in the news department, balancing out other bad news that you can get everywhere and anywhere scrolling. So thank you for tuning in every 8 a.m. weekday mornings. Now, today is October 22nd, and it is International Stuttering Awareness Day. It is also National Color Day, and I love colorful anything. So, if you've noticed, I also try to bring colorful guests on to balance out all the sameness. I have a Happy 88 challenge for you today, actually. If you are anyone who is on stage of any kind or has an audience, my challenge is one that I took probably 10 years ago. And someone said to me when I was training, actually, at different corporations, I'm an organizational psychologist, and I go and I speak, and because I'm so shy, sarcasm is another service I offer. But one of the things that I was challenged to do was, instead of quoting old, dead, passed away men, which is just a commonplace thing that everybody does. I know they're not meaning to be discriminatory, but when you're just quoting Thomas Jefferson or Franklin Roosevelt, people who are of one color and of one time period, then you are not valuing diversity in what you're presenting. So if you notice, I find African American sayings that I love. My favorite African American saying is, when there is no enemy within, no one outside can hurt you. My favorite Native American saying is, worry is a prayer for bad things to happen. So I have taken that suggestion that someone gave me 10 years ago to heart, and I'm going to challenge you to do that too. So the next time you catch yourself quoting Benjamin Franklin or even Margaret Thatcher, to spice it up and look for people of color who, especially women, who have beautiful things to say. And there are plenty of them. And of course, Asian women as well. And that's the way that we become more familiar and have an expanded platform and expanded awareness of colorful women and men who have influence and something to say. Does that make sense? All right. And it is National Make a Dog's Day. So if you know any dogs, and I know quite a few, if you've been on my social, on Instagram, it's Doc Balance. On TikTok, don't tell my daughters, it's Dr. Marissa Happy 88. And everywhere else, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's Dr. Marissa Pay. So if you connect there, you'll know that I have a dog son. Instead of a godson, it's a dog son. His name is Dixon. My sister, my bonus sister, Anne's dog, and he's a Shih Tzu. And no, I didn't swear there. And I also have my daughter's guy's dog, who is named Pablo, is a French bulldog, and he's got the ears. So it's kind of funny because Dixon looks like Chewbacca, And Pablo looks like Yoda. So I have Star Wars in my pet family. So I am going to obviously treat them with something today. It is National Make a Dog's Day. And when we come back, I have a very, very important interview for you. I spoke to Doug Childress, who is a friend of mine that I met in a very horrific tragedy called the Seal Beach Salon shootings. And we just had the 10-year memorial in Seal Beach. I was actually sent to cover that by my New York news agency, and caught up with him and with Paul, who I was very close to during the whole aftermath. Those of you who saw my interview with him on the air following looking at changing legislation, he's going to come back. But I did not interview Doug, who I met in the library, who was the first on scene to the tragedy. So I asked him if he would like to come on, and he said yes. And so when we come back after the break is the story of the Seal Beach Salon shootings, what happened when he came first on scene. When we come back on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa A.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and more. Because I want you to be happy 88% of the time. So I balance out all the bad news with some good news, with topics and people who are part of the solution, even when bad things happen. And as promised, I'm bringing you someone who I got to meet in a very not great time. It was the first day of the shooting of the Seal Beach Salon shootings. And so I just went to a memorial, a beautiful memorial, to mark 10 years since that horrible event happened. And I bumped into someone that I met at the library that day with the families of the victims. And we exchanged words and hugs, and I asked him to come on the show to give you a first-hand account as to what happened that day from his point of view. You know about my point of view. I shared it with you on the air, as well as in that Orange County Register article that was on the first page. So I thought I would bring him on and ask him to account what he witnessed, what he has done in this last 10 years to cope and to heal. So please welcome to my studio, Doug Childress.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to see you again, and it was bittersweet and poignant to see you at the memorial. So let's just start at the beginning. And that fated day, October 12th, 2011, you were near the salon.
Yes, I was
Take over from
working. I was working as a advisor for a very large petroleum company. They were located in Seal Beach at the time, off of PCH, about 100 yards from the shooting. My coworkers and I had just gone to lunch, and I had heard gunfire. I was in the military for 13 years, and I know the sound of gunfire. It's embedded in me. So I immediately ran outside. I brought 2 of the workers with me. We got to a vantage point where we could just start to see the front door or the side door, depending on how you look at the salon, of the salon itself. And I saw the shooter coming out. I was approximately 20 feet away from him, and he lowered his gun on me and had it pointed at me.
Wait. Oh, okay. So he had it pointed at you? Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I said something to him that they said ended up re-triggering his mind, because his plan was to go to his son's school and take his son by force, which was Dominique. So I said to the shooter, I said, if you're going to shoot me, you better make sure you kill me, because if you don't, I'm going to take that thing and I'm going to kill you with it. And at that point, he looked very confused and walked away. That gave me my opportunity to run into the salon. I took one of my workers and I positioned him outside, and I said, I want you to relay any information I give to you to 911. I told the other worker, I said, I want you to follow him at a safe distance and try and get a description of the vehicle he gets into, including license plate. I went inside. There was smoke in the air, of course, smell of gunpowder, and I immediately almost tripped over the first body. And that was the owner of the salon. I started calling around throughout the salon, because the salon was configured that it was multiple rooms. It wasn't just one open salon like most places. I've owned a few salons, and that's not how I normally would have set up mine, but it worked well for their salon. It really did. So I continued going around throughout the salon, stating my name and saying, I'm here to help, while still trying to listen to the person I had outside, which was Mike, to hear if the shooter was coming back or if there was another shooter coming in.
So the first body, the owner was already dead, so there was nothing you could do.
Nothing at all.
Any multiple melted blood? I mean, you could tell he was dead, or did you feel his pulse?
I knew he was dead, yes.
Okay.
Based on the gunshot.
Do you still have dreams about this?
All of it.
All of it. Okay.
Which is weird. I've had dreams where I was shot that day, and there was a total darkness in my dream. I couldn't escape the darkness, and it lasted forever.
Wow.
So, and
let me stop right now and just say I'm so sorry. And anytime you want to stop and you're uncomfortable, please do. But thank you for taking me and my listeners through this to understand what happened as much as we can. Yeah. So thank you. And my heart just goes out to you. And if I were with you the way I was at the 10-year memorial, I'd give you a hug right now, because this cannot be easy. Cannot be easy. So, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
After I determined that there was no more shooters in the building, I continued calling out, and immediately I heard people calling out to me that they needed help. The first place I went was the back bathroom. There was another body in front of the door blocking people that were in the bathroom from getting out. So I moved the body just slightly enough that I could get these people to squeeze through the door. I said, I don't want this body moving any further. I need you people to squeeze out. Don't look. I need you to get to the front of the salon and wait for me. I said, you'll be safe there. I've got people outside. I then went to a massage room, and a woman had hurt herself badly trying to get off the massage table. She had damaged herself pretty bad in order to hide. So I went in and did a quick assessment of her, and since the location that they were in was safe enough, I said, I want you to close the door behind me, lock the door, and just stay in this room. It's safer for me if you're in here right now. I need to move people around so that all of you are safe. I continued through and found the next two bodies, and the owner's wife came out, and she had contorted herself into an area that to this day still baffles me how she was able to get into it. And she came out and she grabbed my hand and she said, please help my husband. And I looked at her and I said, sweetie, I can't help him. So I had her move back to the other people that I'd found in the bathroom, and I kept them in a small circle. And I came across the next victim, and she was still alive, trying to talk to me. I talked to her for a few minutes until she passed, and I gave those words to the family. I went and found the next victim, and the same thing. And then she passed, and then I found Hattie. And Hattie is the sole gunshot survivor. She'd been shot twice, and immediately went to work on her. I called out
Where was she shot?
She was shot. It was through her arm into her chest.
Wow. And
So,
she was actually someone there getting treatment, right? She was getting her hair
getting her hair
cut.
done by her daughter who passed.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So you did life-saving treatment on her.
So I had John and Brandon come in. Like I said, John and I, we served in the Marines together, and Brandon was a medic. I had worked fire service for 8 years, so I knew both of their backgrounds and that they were legit, and that everything that I needed them to do, they would already know how to do. So I had them start working on Hattie, and about that point is when police and fire response first started coming into the scene. Somewhere in the lines of about 5 minutes into still going around trying to make sure there were no more victims, a female police officer came up behind me, and she grabbed me by the shirt and started dragging me outside, and she said, we have one more victim. And that was David Coet. He was in his truck, and he had just finished lunch, and he was shot because the shooter thought that he was an undercover detective. So they drugged me over to Dave's truck. At this point, I've got no supplies left. There's very little I could do, and based on where he was shot, it wasn't looking good. So I tried to comfort him as much as I could. And at that point, the now chief of police for Seal Beach showed up and said, go back in. They need you in there. They need you inside. So I went back, and
Did they know?
officer.
Did they know your training? Is that why they? Because normally they tell people to get the heck out of there. You know, if they're not.
The first officer to arrive he went into shock when he saw what he saw, and I'm guessing based on him leaving the salon and informing other officers, there's people in there and these people know what they're doing. I'm guessing that's what happened. Like I said, I got dragged out pretty fast.
Right,
and then,
right.
I was only with Dave Quett for a few minutes talking, and then, like I said, they immediately were pulling me back into the salon, and we said, we need your help. These people are all going into shock. So I told the officer, I said, okay, I'm going to need more help. Myself and my two guys, we're doing everything we can right now, everything that's humanly possible. And now that we have people going into shock, I said, I need a safe place immediately. And I
so
called
that
him.
answers one of my questions in all of this is like, were you consciously organizing this the way you did? I mean, it was just as if you were created for this role. And by the way, thank you for crying, because tears are the disinfectant that keep your heart soft. And thank you for not apologizing for it. And I told you that first day in the library, if you remember. So I know you do. So thank you for that. So your training put you in this position so that you could help organize and make sure that everybody was secure.
Yes.
Like, did it sort of kicked in? Like, were you conscious of it?
And this usually baffles people. I get into situations, and I've had so many things happen throughout my life that I go into autopilot. Everything I do is autopilot, and my mind, I record things in my mind. And all those little videos are up on shelves in my mind. And a lot of those videos rewind and replay, like that day. It rewinds and replays, and rewinds and replays. And so that particular scenario of what happened in Seal Beach, I had trained for a very, very similar incident about 6 years prior to that.
Wow.
And it was a timed course, and I was given about the same amount of people to do something very, very similar. And
that's weird. Like, that's like, what are the chances of that? But I at the same time, I call it #accidental. It was not accidental that you were there to do what you needed to do in that situation, because it's a friendly universe. And even though tragedy hits, these are the beautiful things that come out of tragedy when our hearts break wide open and this happens. And we're going to have to take a quick break for the news, weather, and commercials, but we will be back here with Doug Childers, who is so wonderfully and lovingly and sensitively sharing his firsthand memories of being at the Seal Beach Salon shooting, still, I believe, considered to be the worst massacre in Orange County, where 7 people lost their lives to a very angry man that we'll come and talk about when we come back here on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It, Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on KCAA, NBC News Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa A.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It, Get Balance with Dr. Marissa. Good morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, including my free subscribe YouTube channel, over 500 shows now, and my red carpet playlist, of course, with my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, and others. So please do free subscribe. You'll get an alert every morning at 8 to tell you a new show is about to drop. And today, it is a special show. It is a sensitive show. It is an important show. I invited a friend of mine who I met in not great circumstances 10 years ago in a library in Seal Beach where 7 people had lost their lives, and I was waiting with the families of the victims in the library, waiting for word to find out if anyone was still alive, if anyone was still going to be able to come to them and hold them. And Doug was actually first on the scene with the shooter coming out of the salon. And I had asked him, how he was doing. And then I had the thought, can you come on the show and talk about your experiences that day with an emphasis on healing? And that's why he's here with us today. Thanks again, Doug, for coming.
So the officer went down to a restaurant in that same locale and asked the owner, can you please clear out the bar area and the restaurant? We need it. It's an emergency.
Yeah.
The officer came back and said, please bring everybody with you. And at that point, I couldn't move anyways because I had Sandy, the owner's wife, was hanging on to me very hard. She would not let go of me.
Right.
So I basically did the mama duck and had them all follow me in a line into the restaurant. And I sat them down as best as I could because a lot of people were like, we don't want you to let go of us. Don't let go.
Sure. And that's common, right?
It's very common.
In shock, you're trying to, when you can't control anything, you try to control what you can. That kind of mentality. So I'm sure, and you were strong, thank God, right? So,
yes.
Okay. So at this point, the people that you had left in the salon, you knew had already passed.
Yes.
Okay. And Hattie, you brought ambulances came?
Ambulances came for Hattie. For 2 of the other victims that they had to transport. But at that point, like I said, I was myself and my guys were already in the restaurant at that point to try and keep those that were going into shock, try and bring some sort of normalcy back into their life.
Sure. Absolutely. So, and they transported Dave from the car?
Yes.
As well. All right. So then at that point, I was about a quarter mile from you in the library. Would you say how many feet away?
Yes,
it's about a quarter mile.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you my story that I went to the library and I said, can I help? I'm a psychologist and I understand, people are being held here to wait for news. And they said, thanks, but no thanks. We have trained grief counselors that are coming. And I said, okay, cool, no harm, no foul. I'm in the community. I was writing for the paper and people knew me in the community and I tried not to take it personally and said, okay, we're good. And then I literally walked maybe 300 or 400 feet and I heard my name being screamed and this friend of mine who I had just seen in that morning at the gym was running towards me and says, you got to help me, you got to help me, you got to help me. My best friend's wife is one of the victims and he's on his way. Please stay. And my kids were like, Mom, should we come? I said, no, stay at home, and then, minutes later, this man collapses in my arms and we're walking him across that lawn or where the trees are to the library. And I was handing him off to say, this is where he's a family member. His wife just, has been shot. And I turned to leave and he grabbed my arm and said, you're coming with me. So that was the first time. And that happened 2 more times, which was just like one of those #accidental, like
Yep.
I'm not supposed to be there. And I was able to just try to be a comfort. And I met you and said the same thing to you, which is basically not saying anything. And I think people don't understand in tragedy sometimes, these grief counselors were walking around with a piece of paper to tell them, what to say, and there's really nothing to say. At this point, like you said, the mama duck, the only thing you can do is just hold and allow for the expression of absolutely justified grief. And tears that flow, that, tears are the disinfectant that keep your heart soft. So for that, I learned so much about grief that day in the library. So that's where I was while you were in the restaurant. I don't know if I told you that story. Did I tell you that story?
No, you never did. I think that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. So that's where I spent, I think it was, what time were you there? It was 1 o'clock? Lunchtime. It was lunchtime.
It happened shortly after 1, and I wasn't allowed to leave until
8.
I want to say almost 8 at night. Yeah, because then the district attorney was heading to where I was living to have a meeting with me immediately after. So I was still being pulled in those different directions.
Yeah, because I was in there from 1:30, I would say, 1:30 until I left at almost midnight.
Yeah, last I saw you was around 7:30.
Yeah, because we were just waiting, and then finally we were allowed to go. And then I went home and I tried to sleep, and like you, I couldn't sleep. My memories were not of blood. My memories were not of bullets, but my memory is just hearts being broken wide open because their loved ones were no more, and still not even knowing. Hattie's husband, I believe it was him, was just, bereft because he didn't know what was going on. And they weren't allowed to say anything because they didn't really know, the extent of her injuries. And so that was so hard because she was 70 something at the time, I believe.
Yep.
And he was about, around that age as well. So that was heart-wrenching, if nothing else. And then all of the kids that were, related, moms that were shot, dads that were shot, sisters and brothers. And it was such it changed my life. That day in the library changed my life, And then I got home, tried to sleep, couldn't sleep. 4 a.m, this voice told me to write. And I'm like, oh, I need to sleep. I don't need to write. And then the voice was very insistent. And I sat and I started it with, the police asked us not to talk about this case. And I'm not talking about the case. I'm talking about what went on that day in the library. And I sent it, not knowing what was going to happen to the article. And then first thing in the morning, it was in the Orange County Register front page in the section. And the great thing about it is the words helped people.
Yes.
The words helped people with healing and dealing with the grief. And for that, I am so grateful. And you were one of them. And I'm so grateful that I got to meet you for that. So, district attorney. Then what? Lots of investigation, lots of questions, lots of questioning. He was arrested. He was part of this stupid drama that I understand in the jail, custody dispute. Paul and I became friends through this, and he took his pain and became, an angel of sorts to try to stop people from carrying firearms who are going through custody battles. And as far as I know, we've been missing each other, but he'll be coming on as well. He knows that you're on with me now.
Yes.
And did he call you? Did he?
No, we talked
Yeah.
shortly after you left, and he's going to be coming back on.
Great. So you played a very difficult role. So let's talk about that. How do you stay unbitter about all of this? You were face to face with a man who just did all this crap, and then watching all the shenanigans in the legal battle and all of the, trying to put him behind bars, which was not easy. Meeting the families. How did you deal with all of this?
Well, so first, going back to the county psychiatrist, they ended up sending me to one, and I never told you this story. I went in and they said, what happened? They already knew why I was there. And they said something that made me stay in the room only for 5 minutes. They looked at me and said, you need to pretend this didn't happen. That's how you're going to get over it. I said, what?
Wow.
Yes. So I left. I started attending the funerals to try and get to know the victims. I was trying to understand who it was that I was trying to rush in to save, who these people were. And through it, I met somebody. I met my wife at one of the funerals. She's actually sitting next to me, holding my hand right now.
Aw, can we put her on camera?
Yes. Here, I'll let her.
Okay.
She always tells it better.
Aw.
How are you?
Hi, wonderful to see you. I understand that you're a good friend of my sister's, Annie.
Oh,
yeah. Serna Martin.
oh my God, yes. Oh my God, she's like one of my all-time favorite people. I love her.
Aw, she told me.
Yeah, she's great. She's good people. Totally good people.
Yes, she is. Her parents informally adopted me. So I call them my bonus mom and dad. And so I have 4 bonus sisters, and Anne is one of them.
Oh, gist of it was I saw this really hot guy at the funerals, and I told
you at the funerals.
Oh, I used to work there. So I worked there at Salon Meritage for about 2.5 years. And then I went to my salon, and so I knew everybody. And so I was going to the funerals, and then I saw Doug, who wasn't my husband then, but I was going to make him my husband because he's really cute, and gave him my card, and we went to coffee, and I was married 8 months later.
Oh, what a wonderful story, and what a wonderful, bright spot to something that doesn't have a lot of bright spots. But
yeah, I felt a lot of guilt in the beginning because people lost their loved ones, and here I met this awesome guy, and I shared that with Hattie. I still do Hattie's hair, and she said that our story gave them, like, at least there was something happy that came out of it. So it was
exactly, and I would love to talk to Hattie, but I understand she's very shy, and I saw her do her little speech, and yes, she's probably very uncomfortable and won't do this. So please chime in what you have gleaned from her, as you are very close to her, and I don't know why I didn't make the connection that it was her daughter that was doing her hair who was shot. So I did meet her briefly, not knowing who she was, at the 10-year memorial. And wow, she is strong. No wonder she fought through that.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's an amazing lady with such just a caring heart, and strong, definitely strong. Yeah. She, I know she had shared that when she, was shot, she told me she was, saying, I still have 2 more kids to live for. Like, I can't die. I still have other, they can't lose their their sister and their mom.
Wow.
So she had the will to pull through that even back then she was shot. That's just amazing.
It is amazing. How old is she now? Because she looks great.
She looks amazing, right? She has a good hairdresser.
No, don't take credit where credit is due. She looks fantastic.
She does look good. I think she's 83
now, right? So 10 years ago is when that happened. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And is she? How do you think she has healed through this? Is she?
She's very spiritual, and she spends an hour plus every morning praying and meditating, and that keeps her sane.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Actually, now I remember I spent a couple minutes talking to her, not knowing who she was at the memorial, and she said to me that she recognized my big brother's name on my book. Mm-hmm. That's the founder of Agape, and she was saying to me, now I'm remembering that she knows Reverend Peggy Price from Seal Beach. Yes, that was okay. That totally makes sense now. Yeah. So maybe she will talk to me. but anyways, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing her with me, and I'm so grateful to know that he has you too. That this is a beautiful connection. So how do we get both of you on frame at the same time? Yay! Okay. Now we'll finish the story. So you meet, and 8 months later, do you talk about this? Do you process it through? Do you hold his hand, when he's going through it? Does he still have moments? Do you have moments? I mean, you knew all of them. Right?
Go ahead.
I actually didn't tell her for several years everything that happened.
I don't even think I still know everything.
All of it. No, there's pieces that I omit with her because they were good friends with her.
Because I know that you can't talk about the last words that several of them had with you out of respect for the family, and I totally am not even going to go there. But 2.5 years, so you knew Christy quite well, right? And Michelle, I'm sure, quite well, and the owner. So how did that impact you, and how have you healed from it?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, how do I?
You thought you were just going to hold his hand, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't know I was going to ask you questions too.
I don't, on the 10-year anniversary, I don't know if you really ever heal. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really have a guess.
That's great. That's perfectly great, because that is, that's the answer. Because it's not a light switch.
Yes.
People think that healing is a light switch. People think that, you're just going to be okay, and you're okay, but you're not okay that way okay.
Yeah.
You're always going to miss, of course.
Right.
I hang on. My discipline is I know where they are. I know where my dad is. I know where Christy is. I know they're on the other side. They're loving us in a way that they couldn't love us even here. And I hold on to that. I still miss, but I don't, my life doesn't fall apart every time I think of them. And I think that's healing. I think that's the gift of healing,
right?
That I wanted to share on the show,
right? Yeah, and Randy and I were just the most amazing business owners, the amazing couple. They were very inspirational in me wanting to open up my own salon because I got along so good and they were so nice and yeah, I wanted to run my business like they ran theirs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So, let's see. Did you have any more, Doug, that you wanted to say on the process of everything? Do you know the latest on what's going on with the case? I kind of don't really know. We'll cover it with Paul, but
his sentence is final, and the Attorney General ended up having to get involved in this case because of the misconduct that was transpiring. And one of the things that the Attorney General told me was that all the family members and myself will be notified should he ever move from one prison to another. So I guess no news is good news.
Yeah.
I know that he's terrified to get out of his cell, and he is doing everything he can to ensure that he remains in his cell. I'm not going to go into details with that, but so all the way up until, and it's funny that I met you again on the 10-year, is because I feel like I've hit a point where for the longest time, Paul and I were the voice for the families. Because Hattie never wanted to speak and nobody wanted to say anything, and it was like everyone always looked at me. I remember one press conference that it was getting out of control, and everybody's looking at me saying, "You have to shut this press conference down, please. We don't want this." And it was them that wanted the press conference in the first place. And so this year I felt that I see them with their wings, that they can now fly. So I want to start taking a back seat. Still stay in contact with families because they keep in contact with me all the time. But
sure,
vocal. This year, I think that I see them flying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he has a life sentence.
Yes.
Right? And with no chance of parole.
No possibility of parole.
I'm going to give that to you.
Perfect. The last question I always ask my guests is, to who or what are you most grateful for? And you can say her because she's right there.
Yes, he knew I was going to say that. She was one of my rocks when I was going through everything. There were a few people. There were two Seal Beach detectives who would drive by the work location every day after this happened and continually harass me in a funny way, like sneaking up behind me to try and scare me, or telling me that I needed to take her out since she was making such an effort to ask.
Wow.
Yeah, they were my first rocks after it happened, as well as Steve Bowles and Chief Joe at the time. They were my rocks. They would always check on me, make sure that I was doing okay, because I wasn't good for I want to say, well, up until I met her, I was doing pretty bad. I had fallen off a wagon, and it was hard to come back from that. And I was on self-destruct. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And, that's when the detectives first started showing up, trying to make me laugh all the time, and just it was a culmination of all of them together that brought me out of that darkness, so that at least I could take a peep at the light real quick.
Right. Well, I'm glad for them. Was one of them Mike?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, he was just standing in the back that day at the memorial. He hunted me down. Yeah. And Gary.
Okay.
Gary ended up moving. He retired and he moved back back east, and he and his wife are always in contact with me, and they're the greatest bunch. They really are.
That's great. Yeah, Mike harassed me quite a bit too when I was raising my daughters in Seal Beach. But so, wife, do you want to say who and what you're grateful for? You're most grateful for?
Well, of course, him.
I didn't know you had the Seal Beach Police Department helping you with that.
Yes, yeah. That funny.
That is funny. That's wonderful.
No, I'm very grateful for him. I'm definitely protected when he's around.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for coming on and talking to me, and there we go, and helping me understand what happened on your end. And thank you so much, Doug, for your bravery, your honesty, your openness, your vulnerability, your strength. And for that, I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And I don't give this to a lot of people, so you get that little award. And again, thank you for coming on and sharing your heart and your healing and your wife and all of that. So that's this is definitely one of my best heartwarming episodes here on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. Remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room during the pandemic on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. And remember, have the best day ever.